Welcome to the live stream. It's good to see folks. Fun fact, both this week and last week, I was working off of my computer clock, which for some reason does not match my watch, my phone, or the big monitor clock that I have in here, which is also half blocked by a plant right now. They all are 10 minutes off. So yeah, that's what's going on here. David says, where is the latest episode of the House Files? Actually, good question. I was supposed to upload that today, but, well, Aaron has uploaded it. I was supposed to publish it, and I was going to publish it before this live stream. However, I spent a large amount of the day at IKEA, and forgot to do it because I was not fully brain functioning when I got back from IKEA. So, yes. Hello, welcome to the very exciting thing I got, which is all my washi tape organized now, which is on topic for today's live stream, which is going to be all about moving, but in an attempt to make this relevant to other people, I thought I would talk about the rent stabilization that passed in Oregon, and it turns out why it didn't apply to us, which we didn't realize that it didn't apply to us. How is everyone doing tonight? Hello, the House Files is here, reminding me that I need to publish that video. And then Aaron said I didn't realize it was logged into the House Files. Newbold One noticed the washi organizer. So this was $15. I'm like pretty stoked about it. And I've wanted to get this for a while, but the reason I ended up getting it was because we have decided to move in 2 months. And yes, I understand getting more things to move seems counterintuitive. However, we are going to be kind of temporarily downsizing into a smaller place. And a lot of stuff is going into storage, including the drawers that I stored all of my washi tape in, like the large, tall drawers that you might be used to seeing back here. Those are already, everything in it is in storage. Or moved into the smaller parts of the desk. This is like all of the stuff I am shipping. This is the last 4 copies of A Cat's Guide to Money that exist that I have to sell. It's actually sold out on the website because I'm holding on to these for giving away to the youth programs that I teach at. And that problem isn't going to get solved until after the house is built. The more books of the house of A Cat's Guide to Money. So anyway, I am going to be doing a like warehouse moving sale essentially for Purbin and stickers on the Oh My Dollar shop. So if you are interested in getting those and you are on my email list, which you can get onto by going to ohmydollar.com, then I will be sending out an email blast to let people know, probably do some significant discount just so that I can get all of this stuff sold before we move in August. So is that washi organizer from IKEA too? No, it is from Michael's. And one of the reasons I haven't gotten it before was because you couldn't get it shipped. You can only get it in person in Michael's. Michael's, I used to pretty regularly go up. It's kind of close to the airport in Portland, and I used to bike to Vancouver, which is like via near the airport. It's Vancouver, Washington, the other side of the river, to go to the ice skating rink, and I would stop at Michael's, but I would like never have enough room on my bike to grab this, and I wouldn't plan ahead enough. And you could only get it in person, but Michael's is up next to the IKEA, which I went to in my parents' new electric car today. My mom was very sweet and decided to help me do the inevitable IKEA run you have to do when you are moving. So yeah, we could talk a little bit about the budget and the economics of moving and how we are essentially making this the most complicated way to move ever. Last week, I talked a little bit about why we were considering moving early ahead of the triplex being done. If you're a regular viewer, you probably know that we are building a triplex right now. We will be moving into that when it is done. It is not yet done. But which is all documented on the House Files channel, which is one of the lovely channels you can go to. I don't have a button to put any promo up on the screen, but it's the housefilespdx.com. I'm still live, right? Please answer if I'm if I'm still live. What changed last week? Because last week last live stream, I was really unsure if we were going to end up deciding to move. We have lived here for over 6.5 years now. The the triplex is not planning to be done until it probably will be done like end of this year. We were on the fence. Moving twice kind of sucks, but we could save money on rent if we move out of this rented apartment that we are in into the loft that is already finished, it's been there for a long time, that is on the same site as where the triplex is being built. The downside of doing that is that ADU loft, it's not actually an ADU anymore. It has its own address, which is accessory dwelling unit, if you don't know. But it's super cute. It's adorable. It's not really ideal for a bunch of reasons for us. For one, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment now. We're going to have to shrink everything down before we move into a bigger place because the triplex is bigger than our current apartment. So it's kind of like a temporary shrinkage. And then 2, there are no doors except to the bathroom in there. And that means that we can't block out light, even though I have kind of an unusual schedule where I get up really early. So I go to bed when it's still light outside. And I theoretically, hopefully don't wake up Aaron on the weekends when I get up at 3:30 in the morning. And so there were reasons why it wasn't ideal. The other side of that is that we have to do some work on the ADU to make it safe. There's some livability things that we had to do, which is like we want to change out the sink vanity so that like there's more storage in the very small bathroom. And then we wanted to like change out the electric stove because we don't like it very much. It's one of those like old coil electric stove and it's super tiny. But there's also like no railing right now because the stairs that go up to the ADU had to be made smaller for zoning reasons for the triplex. And we got ambitious with the railing. Turns out that was very expensive. So now we're getting a cheaper railing, but there was like a delay while we figured that out. So, it was complicated. And we were sort of like, is that worth doing? Then we found out since last week when we were sort of on the fence, we found out that actually our rent was going up by $100 more than we thought. And one of the reasons why we didn't think this was going to be an issue was our rent went up by $100 last year, and there is rent stabilization in Oregon now. We are the first state in the country to have rent stabilization as a matter of state law. We've only had it for a couple years. The city of Portland also has something called rental assistance. That's like a little different than the rent stabilization. But rent stabilization limits the amount that your rent can go up in a rolling 12-month period once you've lived there for at least a year. And it can't go up by more than 7% plus inflation. However, inflation is so high this past year that meant that the rate was 15.4%, which is a huge increase on rent, obviously. So when we were doing all the calculations, 1, we didn't realize a year ago that CPI was going to go up so much. And then 2, what we did not realize is that our building was only finished in 2013. We moved in 2016. However, our building, since it was finished in 2013, it's exempted from the rent stabilization. So they can raise the rent as much as they want. So our rent in 10 months has now gone up by 16.66667%. So that tipped us. And the reason that we didn't know it had gone up so much is they made a typo on our lease renewal. So we got a lease renewal that said that if we went month to month, which we have to do at this point, we can't sign another year lease because the lease break fee would offset anything, right? It said that if we signed a 12-month lease renewal, our rent would only jump by $65. And if we signed if we just went month to month, which is what automatically happens to your lease in Oregon, under Oregon and Portland law, then it would go up by $73.65-ish cents or something, or $73.25. And we were like, why is there only an $8 difference? Because normally there'll be like $100 or $50 difference between the month to month rate and the 12-month rate. And normally they'll give us like 3 options, because all of the previous times we've signed really long leases. We'd signed like 22-month leases or 18-month leases. And we were like, why is it only $8? Well, it turned out it was a typo. And we didn't realize that until the rent that was auto taken out of our account was $100 higher than what they said. And it actually was going up by $173.25 or whatever. So when we sent them an email with the legal document that they sent to us saying what the new rate was going to be, and we're like, hey, you took out like $100 more, they're like, that was a typo. They did refund us, because you can't just send a legal document saying that a rent is going up this much and then just take more out. Luckily, we have a pretty good, relatively large property, but local property management company, and they're not jackasses. So they did refund us like the 6 weeks that they had taken $100 more out of. However, they have to give you 93 days notice if they are raising it more, like anytime they're raising it. And because they said it was a typo / mistake, which is like, I don't understand how you make that mistake. We expect to get a letter from them any day now. I actually haven't checked the mail today, but we expect to get a letter from them any day now. That is that 93-day notice that it will be going up. So we decided we've got to get that out. So yes, we have a donut. Looks good and round and floofy. We do have a donut. It looks a little like too, like it's gone a little hard or something like that. Oh, sorry. Turns out the overhead camera fell asleep again. But it's ube inside. That's why it's purple. So it's got the ube there and then the powdered donuts. That when I get the powdered donuts in the morning and then I eat them in the afternoon live stream, it doesn't look as good. But yeah, I'm excited about eating that. I need some sugar after IKEA. Know Your Joe says, how soon before your new house is ready? We don't know, which is one of the reasons it's made it complicated to figure out. Because if we knew the precise date that the house would be move-in ready and we would have an occupancy permit, it would be a lot easier to make this decision. But we have estimates, but it's construction. It's construction on 3 units. There's permitting and zoning and a lot of very complicated processes. And it's particularly bad where we live, to the point where a lot of developers are claiming they don't want to build in Portland anymore, because of how like slow the delays are around permitting. And because of that, we think November or December, but we're not totally guaranteed. But every month we're not paying rent and we're living in that ADU, it's essentially $2,000 that we are saving on rent, because we still are paying, like, right now, Aaron is paying expenses on that property because, like, the mortgage is paid off, but there's, like, a new construction loan mortgage, and then, power and utilities and Wi-Fi, because that's where Aaron's studio is at. So, like, if we can just eliminate the rental, that's, like, one less carrying cost that we have. My dad wants people to know that the new car is a 2023 Chevy Bolt, and that Union Made was important to them. It is a nice car. I'm not in cars very often. So the last time I was like frequently in cars was when I lived in the Midwest. Yeah, actually when I lived in rural Oregon. And so that car feels extremely futuristic, but it feels less futuristic than when I was in a Tesla Model X, but I think I like it better. It has like backup cameras in the rearview mirror, which I found very neat. David says the infrastructure for an electric vehicle is out of reach for me now. Yeah, it's very interesting. Going up to IKEA, they had plenty of electric charging ports there. Ben Dog says, it's troubling how much rent has increased and quickly in this part of Oregon. Yeah, so, I mean, we really lucked out in the first 6 years we lived here. We never had a rent increase. And then last year, after 6 years, we had an $100 rent increase, and that felt fine after 6 years of having no rent increases. But then having it increase another $173 this year, and that means that overall it's like a 17% rent increase in less than 12 months. It's too much knowing that we're moving out. You know, I remember back when I nobody would pay more than like $400 to rent in Portland. And yeah. So Fuzzbubbles asked, why is rent control? So it's stabilization, not control, but why is rent stabilization built on when the building was built? Weird. So the reason that this was built into the law was the idea that in order to get rid of the housing crisis that we have, we need to incentivize building more apartments. So the idea was, if you make it so that you don't have this stabilized rent for the first 15 years a new building is built there, that theoretically you're incentivizing developers to build new housing. The bummer about that is that like most of our new rental housing stock in Portland was all built in the last 15 years. Like the amount of housing that has been built, because we didn't really get our boom until 2013, 2014. In 2012 and 2013, I did my thesis on the Portland rental market, and that was before the boom. Things really started to get unaffordable and take off. And at that time, rent stabilization and rent control were banned by our state constitution. Only 2 states banned it in the state constitution, which were Oregon and Texas. And rent was bananas. My rent doubled in the course of a year. And that was totally allowed. And, you know, it took quite a long time to pass those laws, and that statewide rent control was considered like a huge victory in the fact that we now have that rent stabilization. But they had to make compromises in order to make it the law. And I do support the idea that, like, we have not built at the rate that we need for all of the new people that have moved here. You know, it stopped being that Portland was constantly talked about as like a darling, great place to move. We're past the era of the Portlandia TV show getting everybody to come here. Now we're in the era of media talking about how scary and crime-ridden and how Antifa has taken over the city. None of which is really true, any more than crime has gone up in all places, which is what happens during times of economic upheaval. You know, and that there is an addiction crisis everywhere, and it has definitely affected Oregon. Antifa is not running Portland, unfortunately. I mean, what? So that now that we have like a very negative spin about how Portland is, it has tempered down some of the influx migration that we've had, but we still are not building at the rate that we need to build. Stephanie says, this is so unfortunately timely for me. My rent is going up by 23.5% at the end of this month. That is unreasonable. So, like, the thing with our rent stabilization is, even if this had applied, this would only be barely not legal because it's set based on inflation plus this 7%. So there's like a thought that maybe it'll be like inflation plus a set amount, but they'll make a hard limit of like 7 or 8% a year. So yeah. What is ube? UBE. So it's ube is like yams. It's like purple yams. Nothing ever finishes on time. I know, exactly. Stephanie says, oh my God, you are me. We're also moving to a new house and don't have a moving date. I know. It's like super frustrating. Oh, to an ADU. It's like, it's just so frustrating how bad it's gotten. And, you know, the triplex situation, this has been in the works as long as we've lived in this place. So we've lived in this place for 6.5 years, and we've been like planning some version of this triplex or been in permitting or like changing things zoning wise the entire time we've lived here pretty much. So, you know, Patience is an act, but we ended up deciding, screw it, we're moving out. So we're moving out in August, before they have that chance to actually make it that 173, like before that 90 days. And then the advantages of that for us, obviously saving money. It's enough months probably before the triplex is done that we will be saving a significant amount of money, even though we have a lot of work to do in the ADU before we move in, which is going to cost money. But most of that stuff is like structural upgrades. We're trying not to like buy too much furniture that isn't going to stay there. We're just trying to like, even though it might not be like the most aesthetically pleasing or fit perfectly, we're trying to just use whatever we have from here to make that space work temporarily. But the stuff that we are investing money in is mostly stuff that will continue once it's a rental. So it'll be things that make it better for renters in the future. Like the sink vanity is nice. We spent a little extra money for like one with soft closed doors that we like, nicer appliances, things like that. Those are all going to be upgrades that are going to new countertops. These are all going to be upgrades that are going to be good for renters and are investments in the structure of it. So hopefully it's not the same as just like wasting money setting up an apartment for ourselves for only a couple months. Portland is all grown up. It is very expensive. Aaron says, when I was biking today, I saw a handwritten sign on a telephone pole advertising a fixer-upper sale for $470,000. Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's all I have to say. Ben Dog says, my friend who teleworks is going to move to Las Vegas so he can buy a home. Here's what I'll say about that. A lot of other people had that idea, and it's been a huge issue in Vegas, and things are not as affordable as they were. Additionally, like a lot of the places that people were moving, like Arizona and Nevada, that people were moving for telework so that they could afford houses, don't have the infrastructure to support the people that are moving there. It's also bidding locals like out of markets. This has been a huge issue in like Montana, Arizona, Nevada. So there's like not the infrastructure to support a lot of these things, like roads, bridges, recreational centers, those kinds of things to support the influx. It's been a big thing that's happened like since COVID and kind of the like boom of people that are allowed to work from home. Know Your Joe says, we have a mass migration into our area to the tune of almost 40,000 people a month. The property taxes are skyrocketing, and I'm wondering if we'll ultimately be priced out of our home. Oh, that's such a bummer when you like already live there. We have, Oregon has like a limit on how high property taxes can go up, and it's based on the 1990 assessed value of your property. Our property taxes are going to jump a ton because we're like essentially building an entirely new property, so it's going to get reassessed. I used to not support the like slow growth of property taxes. It was one of these like ballot initiatives kind of backed by the Sizemores, who are kind of like libertarian low taxes. And I've now kind of come around to slowing growth of property taxes because I recognize how important it is for people on fixed incomes. And I'm supportive of it in a way that I wasn't a bunch of years ago. And I can't tell if that's just because I'm becoming older and have to pay more taxes. People always comment on what the landlords are up to and advise tenant protection, but small landlords are not protected from tenant abuse. I mean, I would agree with that, but I would also say that who holds the power in that situation? Like, small landlords still hold the power. They still hold the property. They still end up doing better in court generally. And yes, it is a bummer, but it is a business. If you are like in the business of being a landlord, you have to accept that there are risks to businesses, and those risks can be contract negotiations. And, that's my frustration. Oh, Media Rex says, I'm Filipino, so I love my ube. I didn't know that it's commonly used in Filipino food. Tell me what kinds of things ube is like used in. I would like to know. Also, is it pronounced ube in Filipino, or is there like a different word for it? I guess in Tagalog. Portland's plan stopped my landlord from the big increases because they didn't want to pay the relocation dollars. Yeah, so essentially Portland has this thing that's called relocation assistance. And if you push the rent up beyond a certain amount, you have to pay relocation assistance. But it only applies in the city of Portland. So there's a lot of people who live like kind of in the city of Portland, but don't have a city of Portland address. And then it also doesn't apply like if you're a live-in landlord or if your landlord owns less than a certain number of properties, which I think is like 2 or 3, or like lives on site. So that's an example where small landlords are protected from having to do the same things that big landlords are. So yeah, overall, I do think the relocation assistance, it was implemented because at the time that it was talked about, there was no statewide rental assistance. And so that was the idea, was like, we're doing this because it's within the purview of the city of Portland to be able to do it. And we're in a rental emergency. I would also say the rest of Oregon was originally not as affected by the rapid rising housing costs, but COVID accelerated the problems in the other parts of the state because most of Oregon is rural, but most of the population of Oregon lives in the Portland metro area. And so initially a lot of the smaller towns were not being affected by these like rapidly skyrocketing housing costs. But suddenly a lot more people could work remote and a lot of people were bidding up the housing markets and they couldn't afford to buy in Portland. They couldn't often afford to rent in Portland. So they were bidding up the housing markets in other parts of the state, in like more rural or smaller towns or like college towns like Eugene or Corvallis or whatever. And suddenly the rent stabilization was more attractive to the rest of the state, which is one of the reasons I think, but besides a lot of activism, it was able to get passed at the state level. Ube is used close enough on the pronunciation. Ube is used in a lot of desserts, but it's like a purple yam. Yeah, it's like a very like sweet situation. I would be curious if there's any desserts that it is good. Someday we need the 3-legged stool, but no tax on groceries or drugs. I mean, yeah, absolutely, please. I'm so used to not having taxes on groceries. I'm so used to not having sales tax that I'm always like surprised when I go to other states and it adds up. How much do people want to talk about? Do we want to talk more about rent stabilization? Because I'm happy to talk about that. Like I said, I did my thesis on the economics of the rental market in Portland, so I could talk about this till the cows come home. Or we can look at my budget. We can look at how much I spent last time on moving, and we can kind of talk through some of the expenses. I will be doing a bike move, which maybe is unusual for some people. Maybe some people don't know what that is. Last time we moved, we ended up not doing a bike move because we moved with like 10 days notice last time. And it was also in November and it was like a torrential rainstorm and it was like a holiday week. So we ended up deciding not to do a bike move last time. And it was the first time I've ever hired movers. And I didn't love it. I would rather spend that money on making and giving my friends delicious food and beer and doing a bike move. It took way longer than a bike move because part of it is that we have like an elevator and like 2 dudes moving our stuff in an elevator takes a lot longer than 30 friends showing up and being able to like each carry just 1 or 2 things, but everybody's unloading and unloading fast. So a bike move, if you don't know, it's done in lots of places, but in Portland, there's a very big particular culture around it. I think I've probably helped on like more than 60 or 70 bike moves. I haven't kept track, but I've been on a lot of bike moves. I've moved my bike myself, like I think 5 or 6 times. And a bike move is you put it out on there's a couple different lists and calendars where you can put it on. You also like invite your friends and people show up at your house with their cargo bikes and their trailers. You usually feed them some like coffee and donuts at the beginning. These are commonly like, it's like a common to have them on like a weekend morning, like late morning. People show up at your house, they load their stuff up. The loading and unloading usually does not take that long because everybody's only loading what they can kind of fit on their bikes. A lot of people have like these huge flatbed trailers for their bikes. And so we've carried, gun racks, furniture, mattresses, refrigerators, chest freezers, all sorts of things that you wouldn't normally think of as being carried on bike. It's definitely a point of pride for a lot of people, and it is unique to be able to do it in Portland, where just so many people have those kinds of trailers and cargo bikes. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen in other cities. It happens in plenty of other cities, but it is I think there's a particularly fun culture around it in Portland. What's also great is that in Portland, it's also it's the atmosphere of a barn raising. And so, people have flags that say bike move on it that they put on their back. And some people try to go for the most artistic arrangement of the stuff that they put on their trailers. And and then you ride your bikes to wherever the end location is. This is usually only used for inner city moves, though I did my own personal bike move when I moved from Eugene to Portland, which was 120 miles. And I did that, but I owned very little stuff at that time. And I did it over the course of 2 days, and it wasn't with everyone else. And I didn't have any furniture or anything. But the advantage of doing it at the end, it's super fast to unload. Sometimes I will pick up a box off of my trailer and I'll walk into the house and unload, and I'll come out and all of the other stuff has already been unloaded from my bike because it's so fast to have 30 people. I think the largest bike move I've ever been at was 60 or 70 people. And one of the reasons it was so large was just that the person who had hosted it had done more than 100 bike moves. And so there were tons of other people who had been helped moved by her. She also she's just a community organizer and knows lots of people in town. And so, people were willing to show up for her because she's a delightful human who puts a lot of time and energy and volunteerism into other organizations. So people were delighted to help her move. That one was really long, though. That was an 11-mile move. Normally, moves are not 11 miles on bike moves. That doesn't mean that I think the mega bike move we did at one point was 17 miles. It's very long. But generally it's a couple miles. Our bike move is only going to be under 5 miles. So it won't be very long. Then at the end, you feed everybody. A traditional thing to feed them is pizza. I don't like to do pizza because pizza is doesn't meet with a lot of food needs, especially here on the West Coast where everybody has food needs. As a vegan, you gotta find vegan pizza. Gluten-free. It's very complicated. Who's vegetarian, who's not vegetarian. So usually what I make is I have a chili that I have won many awards for. It's very easy to make gluten-free and vegan, and I can set it up in a crock pot at the end location. So it's just sitting there and simmering and it's ready to go at the end. And then usually you buy some beer, some non-alcoholic options for people, and then they hang out and you have an instant housewarming at the end. How far... There's no sales tax in Oregon, know your Joe. But we also don't have very well-funded education. So, 6 of one, half dozen the other. What time do the cows come home? They usually come home at sunset, actually, based on my experience living in a village with lots of cows. And they would all walk home at sunset because they don't have very good vision in the dark. So technically. I admit I'm curious about a bike move. How far is your move? Like I said, it's under 5 miles. It's not very far. It sounds like a nice community event, but not for me. Yeah, I don't think it's intended for everyone. I'm not saying that vehicles are inefficient. For me, the fun of organizing a bike move and the expense of feeding my friends is so much more fun for me than paying movers or buying a U-Haul. I haven't driven in a bunch of years, so the stress of trying to drive and loading and then all of it. I would just rather spend the money on feeding my friends and get to have a little mini housewarming. But I also understand it is not for everyone. I will say that as someone who's very plugged into the community, it's also very easy for me to find people that are up for doing this and think it's fun. When I was telling people that I was going to be doing a bike move, someone was like, wait, you're gonna bike move on to there's gonna be a construction site? Can we haul some of the big construction things by bike afterwards? So that kind of tells you about the category of my friends that are into it. Newbald one says, I miss urban living so much. Um, in New York, I'd be worried that someone would not deliver the stuff. I've seen lots of bike moves in New York. The bike moves in New York happen a lot. But yes, I would also say that in New York, it's like way easier to get people to, like, it's much more normal to not have a car in New York. And because of that, there's like a lot more ways to get your stuff without a car from point A to point B. Like, you can pay some dude with a truck in a way that like is harder to do in other places. So what about mattresses? Just big flatbed trailer, super easy to do. Very easy. Also, more and more people have e-bikes now, which makes it even a little easier to do. But we've done that. Couches and fridge, just flatbed bike trailer. Should I show you all a picture of like what some of this looks like? Here, I will, let's see if I can play. This is a very, very old clip of a bike move. See if I can get the Apple TV to play. Can you all see that? Or no? Is it still loading? This is from Street Films, and it's very old. It has a lot of my friends in it. Can you all see this? Or is it not working? Aaron, will you come give some feedback on AirPlay? It's still loading. Okay, we're working on it. We're working on it. My assistance is coming. So, the nice safety bonus of bike moving is that you really attract attention, it looks silly, and other road traffic gives you more room. Absolutely true. Okay, why is it not playing? Help. We do have a mattress store that delivers by bike in Portland. It's two guys on a tandem that deliver by bike. That's actually where our mattress came from. It was delivered by bike. Is the mattress like toast on a cargo toaster? No, it's like much bigger trailer. Is it just not loading? Why is it not? I have tech support next to me, just so you all know. There are not a lot of bikes around here. Everything is too far and too spread out, except for all the new houses. Yeah, I mean, that's what's nice about living in a dense urban city. This is why I don't want to live in the suburbs, for many reasons. There we go. Okay, there's a lot of my friends in this. That's Timo. Oh my god, everybody looks like such babies in this.
Yeah, like there's sound.
Oh, I'm not playing sound.
You can just narrate over it.
You all can see this now, right? Please let me know if you can see this. Can you hear it as well? There's a couple people that have... Oh, you can't see the audio? I wonder if I can... Oh, there's no closed captions available for this movie. Here, maybe we can scroll to... You can see some of the bike loads. There's no way to get the audio, right, Aaron? There's no way to get the audio, apparently. So I can just tell you what's going on. Oh, that's Ken. Oh, now it's paused again. This is too much for my poor little internet to handle, I guess. But I can show you some pictures from a bike move. I actually posted some pictures from bike moves at my... It looks like a cycling circus, no offense intended. No, that's the point. You kind of become a spectacle, and I think that's like one of the fun parts about it. here is, oh my gosh. So this is like a 2009 one. Find me in there. It's a bunch of stuff on there. This is when that was all of my stuff that I owned in 2007. This tells you something. Moving all of my stuff. This was back when I was a Catholic worker, and so I did not own very much stuff. This is another clip of a bike move. This was my friend Steph. I'm actually on this one, although I don't think I'm in this. This was a clip from the this was a clip from the news that they came. This was my friend Steph, who had like tons and tons of friends. But yeah, so she was very big. I'm sorry I can't do closed captions on this. A little annoying, but neither of these videos have closed captions. Bummer.
A 10-mile trip. People started arriving at the first home early this morning.
You might be able to see me very briefly in this clip. I think I had a polka dot helmet back then, so.
Organizers put it up on Facebook and offered donuts and other food as payment. It's all about the community.
You can see a bunch of the loads, though.
People who took part today had their own bike moves in previous years.
It's the fastest.
There's Timo again, like 10 years later from that other video.
Trying to haul everything in over the course of several hours. You got 69 people out here. You can get everything inside in a matter of minutes.
Now, one of the important things to consider when doing a bike move is to have a route planned. Safe streets and fewer turns can make all the difference in a successful job. And that is very Portlandia,
That's
no doubt
impressive.
about it. Yeah, it is impressive that they can do that.
Yeah, my wife and I moved this summer, and we had my pickup and another friend's pickup, and it took us, I think, a better part of a day. So I really am hats off to those guys. And, you know, Mother Nature cooperated for the most part.
Now that we have audio, I'm wondering if I can show you any of this video with the audio.
I think.
My friend Aaron, who passed last summer, is like in this video, which is actually why Street Films uploaded it. Know Your Joe says, this is mind-blowing to me. Oh, I'm glad to help brighten your world. I didn't know push bikes could pull such large trailers. They do all over the world for work and everything else. Bikes are very efficient machines.
Timo, you don't have to get there till Christmas. You're carrying express lights.
Oh, yeah.
The last bike move that I was on a couple months ago, we had, I don't think that Street Films would do a copyright claim on it.
Yeah!
Everybody lift your trailer in the air.
Oh, it's a successful move.
It's the hardest part of the whole trip right now.
And the best part is, when you're done, you have automatically like 20 people to help you unload.
Makes me wish I
You're
wasn't
done, no
bike
time.
challenged. Well, if you can do an e-bike,
I know.
e-bikes can help for the bike challenge. Not everyone, but
Where are we headed with this?
Luckily, that's a small one. I think the bigger one's going to have more of an issue.
give the corker carrying cargo credit. It's actually easier to cork when you've got cargo, I would say. Oh, look at all those hugs.
Someone's got my car!
Everybody's such babies in this. All my friends as babies.
So great.
You can tell it's a Portland bike move because everybody's wearing the high-vis rain jackets. There you go. The trailer that the flatbed trailer. So a bunch of my friends have these bamboo trailers that Adam used to make. George doesn't make them anymore. He used to make these amazing, super lightweight bamboo trailers. A bunch of my friends have them. They're fantastic because they're super strong and very lightweight. But this is the trailer that I really want to get as a flatbed trailer. It's a Bikes at Work trailer. This is what a lot of people use. They're really nice. They're very expensive. My cargo bike is an extra cycle, so I can haul quite a lot. It's actually made, the two guys who started the company, Extra Cycle, actually made them to haul kayaks. So they're quite good at hauling like kayaks, but... Oh, hey, it was original music. That's cool. Yeah, I'm not surprised that that's what Clarence was using. My kneecaps are off to the side of my knees. Have you ever tried a recumbent bike? I'm not trying to be a bike evangelist, but I do think biking is very fun. But sometimes recumbent bikes work well for people with knee problems. Is this typical or atypical for Oregon? Are you referring to corking? Corking is done on, it's typical everywhere that there's large group rides, and it's done to take, to essentially treat the whole ride as one mass. It's what police do with parade routes, where they'll block the parade routes, but it's much faster than a parade generally. However, I will say the Pedalpalooza kickoff ride was incredibly long, and so the corking like didn't work as well for it this past couple weeks. But yes, it is doggo transportation. Very important for big doggos and trash cans and anything like that. There's an accessibility ride this Saturday in PDX. David is not in PDX, but yeah, there's like a cool adaptive cycles ride. There's this ride that is Harry Styles, and adaptive cycling led by someone who rides an adaptive cycle, every year. And it's so cool. I really want to go on it. And in Portland, you can try out different adaptive cycles as part of Bikey Town for All, which is Bikey Town is our bike sharing program here. However, they have this like separate thing called Bikey Town for All that has a bunch of accessible cycles that you can like rent or use just for like regular Bikey Town memberships. And they'll let you like try out a ton of them, which is so cool because finding cycles that are adaptive for people, trikes, whatever it might be, can be really challenging. When I broke my wrist and I needed a trike to get to work, it was like only thanks to Dan, who was in one of these videos, who like knew a friend of a friend that was able to lend me a trike to use for my commute to work. And like, it's just very hard to find. They're expensive, right? Like generally adaptive cycles are pretty expensive. And so finding a way to like borrow or use them, is really nice because it gives you a better idea if it's practical. Are bike moves typical or atypical for Oregon? I mean, they're definitely atypical everywhere, I would say. The bike moves are very common among my group of friends that I made entirely through the bike fun community in Portland. And they're still atypical the world round, I would say. And I wouldn't say that, like, you're not going to move to Oregon and be like, every day of the week I see a bike move. But generally, I would say there's probably like maybe a dozen or 24 bike moves a year in Portland. And I would say this is Portland specific. There are bike moves in other parts of Oregon, but like they're much more common in Portland just because there's enough people to do that. Having a way to justify a Carla trailer would be fun. Yeah, I'm really curious about like what, you know, I could do to kind of engineer my way into getting one of those flatbed trailers. They're really expensive, but I've never owned a car, so I can kind of justify it maybe a little bit. So this is what I have. Mine is a conversion that I made, and it's not electric. Now it's much more normal to have so this is the kind that I have, which is called a long tail. Extra Cycle is a brand name, and they became really known because there's like a piece that you can put into a regular bike to turn it into one of these cargo bikes for Extra Cycles. So I have a conversion I built up myself. That was my daily commuter for 3 years when I commuted 20 miles a day. Now, whenever I get on it, I'm like, oh, I should probably sell this. It doesn't actually fit me very well, but... Ursula says, I bet there could be a community pool for an e-Carla to borrow share as needed. That is what John is, my dad, who's on here, is trying to do for his neighborhood, is doing like a cargo bike like library sharer. I've known a lot of places that have done cargo bikes sharing. I will also say that Bikey Town in Portland is operated by Lyft, which operates a lot of other micro-mobility services in other places. And I do believe other places are they're in their bike share systems trying to do more adaptive vehicles. All of our bike shares here are e-bikes now. So, which is fun, but they are, in my opinion, a little too expensive. I'm considering a sidecar for my motorbike in the future, but I realize that is less eco-friendly. Oh, than a regular bike? I mean, whatever. I think it's all more eco-friendly than a personal vehicle. And but people need cars in our current environment. Unfortunately, we do not build our cities and our roads and our countries in a lot of places in a way where it makes it feasible to live without a car, and can make it very hard to get around by people power. So, we need change at a systemic level before we can expect more people to make changes in their life individually. And I just happen to have set my life up in such a way where I don't have to have a car. So, I love to use bikes. Mine were stolen. Looking for an electric bike now that I'm older with hip and less issues. Any recommendations on an electric bike or ones to avoid? I don't have an e-bike. I've been thinking about getting one, but I've done zero research into them. Aaron got a e-bike conversion for his folding bike, which could be an option if you have a lot of bike theft in your area, because the folding bikes are easier. You can bring them in with you. Aaron really likes his little e-bike conversion kit, which is called a Switch, but with a Y. I don't know how big range that brand is. I know they're relatively new. Aaron really likes it. I've considered getting an e-bike, especially for the commute up the really big hills to the skating rink there, because I have to ride up a giant hill and very early in the morning for skating if I do synchro, and then go skate for an hour and a half, and then go ride to work, and then ride home. And I've been thinking about the e-bike, but I'm still not convinced. Right now, I'm able to pedal. I have a step through because I have a custom bike and I plan on having it for the rest of my life. I have really bad wrist issues, so I have to ride upright because of my arthritis. And I have a step through frame because both I wear skirts all the time, but also because of I want it to work as my hips age and I get more arthritic. But I would say most e-bikes, most standard e-bikes, will be a step through or a drop frame of some sort, because that's pretty typical for a lot of e-bikes. The only way that you're going to get a top tube e-bike generally, from what I've seen, and I am not an expert, I haven't bought an e-bike, is if you're doing a conversion from something else. So yeah, I think we all, as we age too. I'd love consent decrees around ADA, but be more persuasive on fixing things quickly. Yeah, I would also like it if public transit lived up to the ADA standards that they have around transit. But Newbold One says, I used to cycle commute in London, but here there are lots of hills, fast rural roads, and everything is far. Yeah, the rural roads is where I get really scared, where you don't have enough width in the side, and you've got really fast cars, and also if they're super twisty. I get it. That's where I get most scared too. When I lived in more rural Oregon, I used a car more frequently. Ursula has some advice on e-bikes. I'm going to share it without knowing anything about it, but I trust Ursula. Buy at a local bike shop so that yours can be fixed. Usually when things feel too cheap to be true, they really are too cheap. Make sure your battery is UL certified. Okay, there you go. There's your advice. The other thing I will say about e-bikes is if you are considering getting one, look into incentives. There are a lot of e-bike incentives because of the Inflation Reduction Act, and some states are doing them at the state level as well. So it might, if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence and you might be able to budget for it, it's worth looking into. How much do people want to talk about the budget, or should I just eat this donut? Maybe we'll eat a donut and then I can always, we can walk through the budgeting on YNAB after that. See if I can turn on the overhead donut camera. Let's see if it, there we go. Okay, so this is today's donut. It is an ube donut. It's got powdered sugar. I feel like I've had it before, but I cannot remember having it, so I'd have to go look in the overall donut database. Oh, I forgot to do this. All right, so here's a donut. Ube with powdered cream on the top. It's like a full donut it's a full sandwich situation. I'm not getting a lot of the ube taste out of it. It kind of just tastes like sugar cream. This is why I brought a napkin. This is a mess. This is such a mess. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting to the ube on the inside. I still would say I don't like the powdered sugar on the top. Not just because it's hard to eat on camera. It's kind of sickly sweet. So heavy. It's just really sugary. And I'm not getting a lot of the ube like on the inside. It looks beautiful. I love the purple like color on the inside. But trying to get it to focus. It's not going to focus. I love the purpley color, but it's just like an overly sweet situation. It's a little bit crystallized at the back, which is kind of nice. I don't know. Last week's donut was a 5 out of 5, and we are not at 5 out of 5 level. 3 out of 5? I might even say 2.5 out of 5. I'm just not that impressed. I think it's a 2.5 out of 5. Maybe a 3 out of 5. I don't have a 2.5 out of 5 button, so. Yeah. It's just very sweet. Meh. Oh, Eric, this sent a super chat. Thank you. This is the bicycle and donut I came here for. Here's the donation to the storage unit. Thank you. I guess it's time to talk about the budgeting situation. So, do we want to walk through the budget? I feel like it's kind of... Looks like it needs more filling and less sugar frosting, maybe. I think just maybe not the powder on the top. Thank you for the super chat, Eric. I mean, I'm happy to just talk about the bicycle content. I'm really excited about the bike move. I'm also excited we get to do a bike move in August, which is going to be hopefully good weather as long as it's not a wildfire where we can't breathe. Which is entirely possible, given how things have been going even on the East Coast where they don't normally get nearly as many wildfires. Oh, Apple TV. There we go. So this is my YNAB budget. Maybe I can make this bigger for you all. This is my YNAB budget. And I made a moving category, but what I'm going to actually do is pull up my reports from... I have reports from last time I moved, which I can't do on the freaking iPad. That's so silly. Ah, okay. So last time I moved in 2016, and let's see what the total cost of the move was. So the total cost of the move, which includes like things like buying new furniture and everything else, was $476.84. And I can't pull up this report, annoyingly enough, in this. But I have started to budget out some stuff. There's a bunch of random stuff in here. We paid the movers all together. We split it in half, so I paid $157.50. But I like paid a friend to clean our apartment, things like that. And then a bunch of this stuff is just like random furniture or, you know, a dresser from a Craigslist guy. That's what's in here. And like things from IKEA and stuff like that. So what we need to do this time is I need to budget for a bunch of other stuff. And I think I'm going to, I think what we're going to do is we're going to add it up and then we'll just put it into the moving expenses category. And I will be taking it out of what I put in the savings 2023 category. So I think I'm going to put 805.68, and then let's see if that's enough. So let's actually like add this together and see if it's enough. So pull up a calculator. Do I have to download I have to download the calculator app, y'all. Well, let's open this while we get the calculator app to move in here. So, notes all together. We need the storage space, which is, I believe, $73 a month. And then we had like some random other move-in fees. So we ended up getting a 5x10 storage space, and we were hoping that maybe we wouldn't need a storage space. But the problem is, since we're only temporarily downsizing, there's like a bunch of stuff that it wouldn't make sense to like sell or downsize out of it because we want it in the new place. And it kind of makes sense like one way or not to kind of do that. So the storage space is 73, and then that's 73 a month. However, I think we're going to have it, let's say we're going to have it for, we'll have it for July, August, September, October, November, December. Let's say 6 months, and then it'll be half of that. Can it, oh, it can only go this way. Great. I've got it like propped up now. 73 times 6 divided by 2. So 219 for the storage space. 5x10 storage is pretty frugal. Not bad, really. We were originally going to go by 5x5, which was like way cheaper. But it just, it looks like it's going to be big enough. It'll be fine. We're not storing very much furniture. The only thing we're storing is our mattress because there's already a mattress and a bed in the ADU and they're a different size. So we're just going to use those and then we'll keep our full-size mattress there. So that's half, $219 for the storage space. Buying coffee and food for 30 odd people is much cheaper than decent movers. I'm kind of predicting, so I usually spend like $60 on chili for a move, but food has gotten so expensive. So we are getting custom vegan bike move donuts for the beginning because we're moving out from the neighborhood where the vegan donut shop is. So they're going to say bike move donuts on them, and they are $3.50 a piece, and we'll get bike move, and maybe we'll get bike move times 2. So or they're $3.25 a piece. 3 times 16. All right. So $52 divided by 2. Okay. So the bike move donuts are going to be, let's say with tip, $30 each. Might be a little more. I don't know. I appear to be on a different keyboard than English, which is why I keep thinking weird. So let's say 30 each. Moving away from the donut shop. That is not good. I mean, we're moving to a near a different donut shop, but here's the thing. It'll be fine. I can come back to... We're not moving terribly far. But I will no longer be that close. John says, I had to be away for a keyboard for dinner prep, but I want to mention that I'm literally working on the Brooklyn Cargo Bike grant application while watching the stream. That's great. The costs just seem to be rising. Security system, washer, dryer. I still have 4 fans in the box waiting for the electrician to install. Did you buy a house, K-Walk? I just paid $1,000 for movers. This is why a bike move is cheaper. I'm not necessarily saying that everybody should do a bike move, just to be clear. Okay, I'm just gonna budget $100 for chili and fixins. That's really high because I'm gonna be making the chili, but let's just put it there. $100, and then the beer and NA beverages will be let's say $40. I can't imagine it'll be more than 80. 100 is really high, actually, if we're splitting it in 2. Let's say 75. Because that'll be 150 and that's like crazy high end. Okay. So we have the food, blah, 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 blah. Now there's a bunch of other like random things. I am gonna budget for restaurants. Restaurants and takeout, which is just what happens when you're freaking moving. Like 60 more dollars? 80 more dollars? Let's say 100 over the next 2 months. Extra dollars. I normally budget like 30 a month for restaurants. 100 more? Yeah, that seems doable. So that'll be like $80 a month budget versus $30 a month budget. It's a couple extra takeouts. I mean, I normally get like, I go out to like get a couple burritos, and we live pretty close to a cheap burrito place. Like the new place is near to a cheap burrito place. So we can get some burritos when we don't have it together to cook. Okay. So then we need to do like the random things for a new apartment. I already spent like $31 on like IKEA stuff, and we're not talking about the permanent fixings for the apartment because that's like part of the overall budget for it. But I do expect to need like more stuff for like my closet. Okay, we need more boxes. We're hoping to get most of the boxes. We've already like packed a bunch of the boxes, but we probably are going to need to buy like a couple specific boxes, like maybe one wardrobe box for like storing my wool coats. By the way, if you know the best way to store like wool coats and stuff, please let me know. Also, speaking of which, dry cleaning. I need to dry clean my 2 winter coats before I put them in storage. And I think that's going to cost like $30 of dry cleaning. And then I have like one vintage wool dress that I may or may not dry clean before I try to sell it. Okay, boxes. I'm going to say $40 for boxes is on the really high end, right? Right? And then random new things for apartment, I've already spent 31. I'm going to say 125. I'm trying not to buy furniture for things that I like don't need. 150? Everything's more expensive now. What do we think about this? Okay. Then the actual apartment just spent like $700 on like IKEA things, but that included a vanity, a sink, like a mirror and everything for the bathroom. And that's all like permanent stuff for the house. And then for the ADU and like when it turns into a rental. So that's like business side expenses rather than personal side expenses. What am I forgetting, you all? Oh, coffee. $20 for some nice coffee. I'll buy it from the local bike roastery that sponsors Breakfast on the Bridges that I volunteer for. $1,000 can buy a lot of party food. Vegan bike-in move donuts. Yeah, I'm definitely doing that. I feel like it's a way to celebrate having lived right next to a vegan donut shop for so long. Is the Portland cream 5 out of 5? I do find it a little sickly sweet depending on the sesame location. The Portland like Earl Grey one, that one I really like it. I haven't had it in a really long time, but it was 5 out of 5 when I had it. If the storage place has a lot of units, the chance of moths and other pests might be higher. So I put essential oil moth deterrent in my clothes box in closed containers. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I was thinking about storing them in like a wardrobe box and then like inside some kind of garment bag that might be more protective. There are a lot of units, but it is quite clean and everything, but I guess obviously it could be coming from other units. Okay. Let's add up how this is doing. It's very annoying that this calculator seemingly cannot be half and half. So I'm just going to add this up together on my computer. 219 plus 30 plus 75 plus 20. What am I forgetting that happens when you move? Oh, we might reserve a parking space for the bike trailers outside of the house, which is 30. This is 704, y'all. That's pretty good. And then I have 805. So that's like a $135 contingency. I think that's probably good. One of those vacuum bags could be good. I've always heard you shouldn't store wool in vacuum bags. That is what I heard. Sandalwood clothes rings are also good. Tape budget. I'm kind of including that in the boxes, but yes, that's good to note. Yeah, I'm kind of saying tape is in the boxes category. I hope we don't have to buy too much other like random stuff for the apartment, but I have a feeling we will. I really want to like, because we're only going to be there for the ADU, not the current apartment, for the ADU. I'm like hoping that we can kind of like anything that we do is stuff that will work for it long term. We do need to have like a paint budget and stuff on the business side. I feel okay about this. I feel like this is a reasonable budget. Wait, did it not save my little notes? Ugh, that's so annoying. Oh, someone asked ages ago, please explain assigned an activity. So this is you need a budget or YNAB. And available to spend in the green on the side is how much is available in that category. As you can tell, there's some categories here that I don't tap into very often. The activity is how much I spent in that month. So assigned is how much of money that came in that month I put towards this category. So I had money left over from a previous month. I put $100 in. I spent $185, but I still have $76 left. And that's for things especially that you like might build up a budget for. So like a great category is that I have this travel fund category. It has $500 in here, but I actually took $3.82 out of it this month. And put it into a different category because I don't have any non-work travel coming in. And then I allocate it to the various categories. Often I'm traveling internationally, so I have a different budget that I'll like pull that money out and convert, which I've done on a couple live streams before. Groceries is a good example because obviously I have that spending every month. So I assigned $175 this month, but I had some extra money in there. So even though I've spent $74, so if you look, this is what I've spent money on this month. We're not very far into the month, but this is what my grocery spending has been this month. Treats is a category that I use for like non-essential groceries, and then coffee, tea for home. I put $15 on it and I still have 25. Party food. It's actually a misallocation. Here we go. So now I have 64 to put in there. And I'll move that to 864, 31, I'll move that to there, and then I'll move anything extra towards that savings category later. The more predictable expenses, so if we look at like household and insurance, these are like more predictable expenses. So, you know, this is my electricity. The reason it says $35 per month is it's flexible and it changes. I haven't spent it yet because my bill hasn't run yet this month. So if we go back to like May, my electric bill was $40.32 in May. And so even though I only put 35 in that category, I put 35 in every month because we have a lower electric bill in the winter, because we don't ever almost ever have to turn on the heat, but then we have a really inefficient like portable air conditioner in the summer. And now that Portland is apparently going to be 90 degrees in May, which is not what we are expecting generally, but is becoming the norm with climate change. Yeah, we have to do that. But this renter's insurance is a great example of like, I need to call and cancel my renter's insurance because we're moving out of here. And I won't be a renter anymore. So I have to cancel that. But I had been saving $13 a month in it because I pay it only once a year, but I need to call and cancel it. So I picked up a box of marker pens for labeling things. Very handy for things when things got chaotic. Oh, things have gotten much more intense than that. So I don't think there's anything I can't show you in this. We have this app that we are using called Boxes, and we are printing the labels out for things, and they're going on to the categories. So if I AirPlay this, I should be able to show you all. My quest is to be incredibly organized for this move, whether or not that ends up happening long term. So this is what this app is. This is all of the stuff we put in storage, and it has like a label that prints out like every create label. So this label is actually on our boxes. There is a picture of what's in the box, and then I have like all of the things that are in there, and it has tags and everything. And then you can see where things are going to go. So right now you can tell like the only two ones that have boxes right now is the storage space, because we've already been filling it up, and the laundry room. And the goal with this is that we will actually, like, if we are struggling with trying to find something and we can't remember where it is, we'll hopefully be able to like identify what box it is in the storage space, or like know what room it is in. And then all of the labels will be color coded for move. And so people will be able to like at the bike move, just take them to the room that they need to be in. That reminds me, I need the labels for the laundry room boxes. Print out those 3 right now. Okay, I'm doing it. Let's create the label. Here we go. I'm going to send it. So that one's red, and then create, and then print. It's in the room that I'm in. So I'll show you all what it looks like. So it won't be red because this isn't a color printer, but I'm going to highlight it red. Whoa, cool. What is the app called again? It's called Boxes. Aaron found it because I was like planning on doing this as part of, I was planning on like designing this myself with a spreadsheet, and Aaron was going to build an app for it. And instead we found one, and it costs like a little bit of money once you get past a certain number of boxes, but I am willing to pay for it because it's working extremely well. So this label just printed out. And because it's in the laundry room and that color is red, what we're going to color it in. I got it. It's right here. But I'm going to color it in red for you. Because it's a black and white. Our sticker printer is black and white, unlike our other printers. So. See? Boop, boop, boop. And did I use an Expo marker? Yes. Hopefully it will dry. Aaron says it costs like $7. One of the cheapest moving expenses. Yeah, it was worth it thus far, as long as it doesn't lose everything. I I did a Notion table for my move, and being able to search later to find where I put X thing when I was in temp housing was so handy. Yeah, when I moved to Germany, I put some of my stuff in a friend's attic because I was only moving there for like 8 months or whatever. And I had like a big spreadsheet, but I owned a lot less stuff in 2012 than I own now. So great find. Aaron did that. Another super useful thing I have learned, along with purple yams, the wheels never stop turning. I would expect nothing less than a system for the storagification. This is way better than marker pens. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And then you can like search if you know, as long as you label things well in there, you'll be able to like search what you want when you're looking for something. It also has like a tasks management, but I'm not entirely sure about how much we're going to use that. But, yeah, like this is like a picture of all of the games, but Aaron actually like put what games are, it's not showing it anymore. Sorry, my Apple TV stopped showing things. I don't know why. But yeah, it works extremely well. So, all right, y'all. I have to run. I'm going to take the train down to Eugene tomorrow to record for my day job. Tomorrow is my Monday. So I will leave you be. We will talk about something other than my life next week, I promise. I figured this could be at least a little universal. Most people have moved at some point and know the stress of it. And a lot of people have experienced their rent going up a ton. And frankly, I was surprised to find out that we were not covered by the rent stabilization. So I don't know, thought I would spread that. How I have longed for the ability to log box context. Still sorting through my boxes, so this might be a thing even for me now. The only thing I failed to be detailed enough in my spreadsheet were where my primary bike's pedals were. Did you like disassemble the bike to put it in a bike box and then you couldn't find the pedals? I always recommend when people put them in a bike box and they have their pedals is to like tape around it and then tape it to their stem. Your life is super interesting. Thanks. It doesn't really feel that way right now. I spent a lot of time at IKEA today, so, I have all these pictures of just IKEA tags in my phone now. Thank you very much to my mom for driving me up there in her new electric car and bearing with me for 3 hours and 14 minutes of going around IKEA, a lot of which was just me trying desperately to find the stuff that I wanted. I prepared with a shopping list in the IKEA app, and then the shopping list does not like organize by what aisle things are in. Anyway, I was a little frustrated. I have some usability feedback for IKEA on their thing. K-Walk Comedy says, I know the stress. I just moved into my first home. Well, I'm sorry you're experiencing the stress. Please keep track of your expenses so you can report back all those tiny annoying things you're paying for, like the electrician and dumb security system and things like that. I would be very curious to know. And congrats into moving into your first home. Bike was totally disassembled. I put them somewhere tucked neatly. The only thing was worth box hunting to find. Stephanie says, I'm jealous that this app is iOS only. I wonder if there's a good equivalent for Android. Oh, y'all, I just got a Be Real notification. What if we do a Be Real in the live stream? Say hi to Be Real. All right. Really, I will see you all next week. Same time, Tuesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the forums at forum.ohmydollar.com. I always post all the live streams there. Subscribe if you are not already to get notified about the streams when YouTube decides that they want to. And until next week, stay safe, stay hydrated, pet a cat if you have one available, and I will see you all soon. Bye.